Hey everyone, welcome back to AFTV and welcome to the Forever Arsenal podcast. And I've just noticed everyone's all over the place. I haven't got the positioning on the
Look
grid
at
right
this.
at all.
Second show in. It's a shambles, Lee. Absolute
Right, it's just a
shambles.
shambles. I'll tell you what, this is what
There
you say,
we go.
he's turned over to become an Italian today, isn't he? Because of the signing. Ridiculous.
What do you mean?
Well,
I just like this jacket.
For
anyone, of course, listening on podcast platforms, I'm wearing my Italy Euro 2020. I know it still hurts. Some of you, but
doesn't that be at all?
No, but, Jorginho lifting the Euros trophy.
Oh, yeah.
Bellini.
I've always liked him,
Yeah,
brilliant player.
Brilliant player.
Brilliant player. Absolutely
Always
brilliant.
been a huge fan, actually.
Yeah.
Myself.
Why he was playing for Chelsea, I do not know.
No, exactly. He's at a proper club now. Welcome everyone back to the podcast. It is me, James, hosting today with Jordan. Sharoy's in the building as well to cover for Turkish and Lee as well. But you know what?
How come he got a club?
Well, you're right. And round of applause for Jordan and Lee as well. I was just because he's filled in. He's always stepping up for us. Guys, we're going to be honest with you, and it is sad news. We're just going to explain why Turkish is away very briefly. It was revealed on the Big Six, so some of you have watched that will know already. But his nan passed away very, very sadly. There's someone that we're all very close to our nan, but Turkish was very, very close to his nan. And it's incredibly sad. And we just want to wish him, all the love and support. And, he's going to take all the time he needs. And we welcome him back to the podcast, whenever he's ready, of course. But what you guys don't know is the amount of work he puts into putting this podcast together. He was at the very origins of this podcast and bringing us all together and us bringing you this show. So we just, whatever he needs, we've got it. And Sharoy is, so happy as you always are to cover for him. But as you mentioned, the other day via WhatsApp, it's not at all the circumstances in which you'd want to be jumping in. But, we love you, Turkish, and we look forward to having you back.
Just to add, I think it is actually obvious to the viewers and listeners how much work Turkish puts into this show when you step into the hosting duties, because people get to really see now how hard and how good a host he is when James comes in. So I think we need to pick up Turkish even more.
Absolutely fair enough.
And also another thing, guys, I've got to say, Turkish makers come in late every now and then. We admit that, but he does put the link up. Not 2 minutes before the time.
Hours before normally.
So
big up Turkish. Big up Turkish.
Yeah. I actually had the message to get the link sent to me.
Sharoy's having a pop. I love it.
On a serious one with Turkish, look, he takes great pride in the content that he puts out for all of the viewers, right? And he's one of those guys that engages with the comments, whether they're positive or negative. Yeah. And he's going through something now where, if you have the love of the online community for the work that you do, this is a moment where it would be great if the online community could really show it, because it's a difficult life situation to go through. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure he'd appreciate all the positivity that can come his way, so that he's not feeling like he's dealing with it himself, So please do go and show him the love that you all know he deserves.
And I echo that, when my dad passed away, all the messages that you get and all that is very, very comforting. You know what I mean? And it does give you a little boost to get back and get back on, on the wheel, as they say, So big up to everybody, and I think our thoughts are with Turkish and his family, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is our second show since the Man City game. And obviously, the Man City game was covered in great detail. We're not going to touch back on that again. We are going to look ahead at Everton. Before we do, it feels like, for the amount of talk online and the amount of sort of despair at some of what's gone on in the Arsenal world recently, and some joy, it's gone both ways. You'd think Arsenal had played another 3 Premier League games, but they haven't. It was just the end of the transfer window, and we had a round of votes. Who thought we would get Moises Caicedo? And I think 2 said yes, 2 said no. and we did ask who thought we would bring in a midfielder. We all put our hands up. We were all correct, and it is Jorginho who's come in. Sharoy, I saw your tweet, and I did retweet it because I thought your points were spot on. And if you want to sort of chat to the audience now with all of us about your kind of thoughts on the window we've had.
I was baffled by the online fallout when Jorginho was announced. I mean, I was seeing Edu out. I was actually seeing Edu out, not trending worldwide, but trending within my following section. I was thinking this can't be serious. And then I was clicking into the tweets and look, people meant it. People meant it. Now, if I'm comparing this window to last January, one of the things that I was irate about is that there was clearly at least one position that we needed to address, if not two. We had a plan A in Vlahovic, and once that didn't happen, we didn't have a plan B. All right. So throughout that season, all I was saying is, how can you not have a backup option? I understand that you're showing intent with a particular player, but how can you not have a backup option? Now this year, not only did we go for two expensive players, two high-profile players, two highly sought-after players, but we do pretty much everything we can with regard to Mudryk and Caicedo to bring them in within reason. Now, when I say within reason, that is the operative term here, because Chelsea can operate not within reason. They don't need to operate within reason right now. They're paying in excess of 100 million for prospects, which is not something that every club can do. Not saying that Arsenal's a poor club, but it's not something that every club can do. So what do? We do have a plan B. We get a Premier League proven wide man that can play across the front three, and he's scored a hat-trick at Anfield. He's an international player. He can hit the ground running. What does he do when he comes on against Manchester United? First game, looks pretty good, pretty direct. What does he do second game against Manchester City? Away, looks pretty good, pretty direct. Beds in perfectly, right? We know that even in the Europa League and the Cups or whatever, Gabriel had to start a lot of games because there wasn't enough cover for him. So we bring in a left-sided centre-back. Good recruitment. Everyone that knows him, I don't know much about the player, but everyone that knows about him says he's a ball-playing centre-back, fits the profile. I'm happy with that. And then when you realise that you can't get Caicedo, because look, if he's not for sale, he's not for sale. What can you do? It seems like that was the reason. If you can't get him, what's the problem with bringing in one of the most decorated European players of recent history, someone who's won the Europa League, the Champions League, the European Championship, whatever it is, someone who's played a crucial role in that, a very, very short-term contract. This isn't like the Willian deal where you're offering him a relatively long-term contract. You're just bringing him in to get you over the line. And he's actually a similar age profile to our two starting midfielders. He's not that much older than either of them. So I was baffled. I actually thought it was a very astute window. May not have been the sort of rock and roll window, as I put it on Twitter, that everyone was hoping for. But how many other teams did have a rock and roll window this January? Clearly wasn't that easy.
I agree. Lee?
Listen, I've been disgusted, disappointed, right, with the way it's been portrayed, the way it's been addressed in the media and everything like that. Because let's get one thing straight, and I'm really annoyed about it. I even heard Sky Sports reporting yesterday. Arsenal go for Caicedo, £70-80 million player, end up with Jorginho. That is not the case. If we'd have been able to have sorted out a deal with Brighton, he'd be here as well as Jorginho, because Jorginho has come in as a direct replacement for the injured El Neni, right? That is what has happened, but no one seems to want to report that. No one that wants to say it. No one wants to ever even go down that route. It's really, really annoying me, because it's another little dig at the Arsenal. Now, let's get the facts right on this, yeah? Arsenal done everything they can to get him, but Brighton don't want to sell. That's their prerogative, but you can't force them to sell. I don't even think if we'd have gone even to stupid money, they weren't going to sell. They'd sold players already. They feel that they've got a chance of top four or Europa League. They're going to go for that and then sell him in the summer if that's the case. I'm pretty sure talks have been going on that we'll let you have your move in the summer. I just think it's been real disappointment from the media side. From our point of view, yeah, we've missed out on a couple of targets. It's not been a great window, if I'll be honest, because I look at it and I felt we was weak going into the transfer window in midfield, and we're even weaker coming out of it now because we've lost Lokonga as well. Now a good bit of stuff El Neni, we all know, got that training injury 2 weeks ago now. Had the operation last Monday. Kept it under wraps very, very well. And then as soon as the Jorginho deal was announced, they said, like, he's out for probably the rest of the season. So Arsenal had to do something, and I think they've done that pretty well, really. I think, like, I look at it and I think, like, that's a good bit of skullduggery in the old transfer window, keeping that all quiet and everything like that. I just think Arsenal tried their best. They've got a very, very good player in Trossard, and even if they'd have gone and got Mudryk, who says they wouldn't have gone and got Trossard? I don't really understand why these sort of things are saying, like, I think Arsenal at this moment in time, when I look at it now, are not. I'm going to be very disappointed in the summer if we don't make some big signings, because we need them. But I look at our bench now, and I think, like, it's a lot stronger now. If everybody's available, I ain't seeing young kids that are just filling up the bench, you know what I'm saying, which we've had in the last season or so. That ain't happening now. All those players on the bench can do a job, and do a job, as you said, in the Europa League. So as I think it's underwhelming, yes, I think that we'd say that. But let's be really honest about it. Who would you replace in our, right, say, right, our first 11? Who are you going to replace? You can say, right, we're going to bring someone in, I'm going to drop him. I don't think there's no one that you could turn around and go, right, you're going to leave Xhaka out if you bring in a 70, 80 million pound player? I don't think so. So I think it was for here and now, but also for the future. Listen, I think that we've still got enough to win the league. I'm not going to go in there saying, no, that these signings are going to definitely push us over the line. But even if we got those signs, I don't think it's a definite for pushing over the line. I think it's not been a bad window. I can't believe the people saying about, I've been getting a lot of stick because I've spoken to the man a couple of times. You know what I mean? Like,
it's your fault, Lee. It's your fault, Lee. To be fair, it's your fault.
Well, yeah, from people saying, "I hope you're going to pull your pants up now," and think, "Oh, it's a ridiculous sort
wow.
of thing." You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, but listen, I think at the end of the day, Twitter is Twitter, and is they really genuine fans? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not so sure.
Lee, someone. I explained on a tweet that I didn't want Jorginho, but this is probably why Arteta would, right? And I outlined my reasons. Someone said, "Have you not learnt from the Willians and Luizes of this world?" I said, "I didn't sign him. I didn't wake up on Tuesday and go, Edu, take a day off. I've got this. I'm bringing in Jorginho."
David Luiz that bad?
What's that?
Was David Luiz that bad?
I thought he did a good job for us.
I was one of the first, and I was on this podcast to say David Luiz's stint has been good for us. I was more than happy with David Luiz. Did a job for
Willian. One didn't work. Yeah,
Willian was a shocker. Let's be honest.
Didn't work.
But then there was Benayoun. Actually, this did the rounds. Which of the Chelsea rejects were successes? Benayoun, hands up for a success. Come on. Big games against United, Spurs.
Move on, James.
Some moments.
Check. David Luiz.
Yeah, I'd say it was a success. Yeah.
Willian.
Hell no.
Jorginho.
William Gallas.
Oh God.
Yeah. No hands up there from you, Jordan. So you expected the same for Jorginho?
No, I'm not. I actually agree with everything that Sharoy said. I don't often take to Twitter to tweet views. I often retweet stuff and other people's work. But I found it quite embarrassing, a lot of the Arsenal fan base's response to this transfer. A lot of snobbery. And I'm gonna come for Cecil here as well, because Cecil's one of them as well. And I'm gonna call him later on. I think it's embarrassing that a group of Arsenal fans have been so up their own backsides, they can't actually see the value in this signing. Now, let me be very, very clear, and I made it clear in my tweet. Would I have signed Jorginho? Probably not. I don't think I would have. But do I see value in the signing of Jorginho? 100%. It's very, very simple. Arsenal, and there's no one been banging this drum more than me about a midfielder being needed to cover our first choice midfielders. But Jorginho, look at the pros. You're bringing in a proven winner. You're bringing in someone that's Premier League proven. You're bringing in someone that can cover. One of the few players, when you think about it, that can play an 8 or a 6. I think he can play both an 8 and a 6. So you're not only replacing or backing up he who shan't be named, but you're also backing up Partey. I think he can do both of those roles. And Chelsea fans laughing at Arsenal saying, ha, 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 you're taking out our trash, you're getting our leftovers. I'm like, be very, very careful, because you might have just helped us win the league for 12 mil. You might have helped us win the league for 12 mil. Another point I made in my tweet was, if Arsenal don't win this Premier League this season, and that could happen, if they don't win the Premier League this season, it won't be because of Jorginho. But if Arsenal do win the Premier League, I think he could be the difference in just giving Partey and he who shan't named a little bit of rest. We've got a lot of games coming up, and the pressure is now on. I said in the last podcast, the season starts now. The pressure is on now because we're the favourites now. We're expected to win every single game. And bringing in someone like him that not only from a tactical point of view offers us variety, but also a bit like Zinchenko in the dressing room, just knows how to get over the line. It's a what? It's a 2-year deal, right?
Year and a half.
It's a year and a half.
From memory.
Sure, right. Here's the thing. He's only got to be good for 5 months. We don't need 5 months from him. If we win the Premier League this season and next year he's shocking, who cares? We just need 5 months. Just give us 5 months.
Arsenal might even be tempted to look at who's out there for him in the summer. Yeah, you're right. It could just be 5 months, and then he goes brilliant.
Just get us over the line. And I think, go on, Lee, go on.
No, I just want to ask a serious question. Do you think if El Neni was injured, say if El Neni was fit, do you think they would have done this deal?
Great
question. I think they would have. I think they would have. They were looking at a midfielder in general terms anyway.
So that's interesting because sorry to cut you short. Because there are positives, and I do want to explore why Arteta wanted to do this deal. And we've touched on the experience he adds and all that, but it does feel like, okay, Elneni's probably going to miss the season. So I know what Lee means when he says we might have come out in that midfield area weaker in terms of numbers, not in terms of kind of dependable quality, but maybe in terms of numbers, because where we had Partey with Elneny and then Xhaka with Lokonga, it now feels like it's Partey, Jorginho, and then no one behind Xhaka, and then you're hoping that basically Smith Rowe can drop in, maybe Vieira comes across. And
but your mate Zinchenko, sorry James, your mate Zinchenko. Let's not forget about that. He can play midfield if needs be,
which I'd love to see because I'm so behind on this bet with Robbie. But then you're removing a key part of another, somewhere else in the team to kind of make it work. What I do think though is we're at that stage of the season where I think we like to think we want two 11s, right? And I did that myself. I posted a picture saying this is our squad. This is where you can make a second 11, with the other players. And look, it looks very, very, very decent. Don't get me wrong, but Arteta isn't going to treat the Europa League as just a second 11 going out. He'll probably go Jorginho, Xhaka, Odegaard, and Partey gets a rest. He'll probably go Trossard, Jesus, Saka. You know what I mean? He'll still go kind of maybe 5-6 changes rather than wholesale changes to the 11. So actually maybe just upping the quality of who's on the bench rather than the numbers is what we needed.
I actually also I disagree with Lee slightly in that. I heard that there was a statement that came out from there was a journalist tweeting that Brighton was saying this deal was never going to happen for Caicedo. I don't believe that. I think how he handled it pissed them off. And then they were like, no, you're taking the piss. We're done with you. Arsenal go in on January the 1st with a bid of 100 mil for Caicedo. Do not tell me they don't accept. They're taking that deal. They are taking that deal. You get 100 mil in January, you're taking that deal. So I don't fully believe this idea they're putting out now that, Arsenal were never going to get him. Yeah, they would have. We just handled it wrong. We didn't give them what they initially wanted for the player. That's our bad. And that might harm relations going down the line. But this idea that it was never going to happen, I don't buy that. But just going back to the Arsenal fans, sorry, Shura, just final point. Just going back to the Arsenal fans, it's snobbery. It's snobbery that because our player didn't cost 100 mil, therefore something's wrong. I've never really been into the 100 mil. I don't care about transfer fees. I care about the right player. If it's the right player that costs 4.5 mil, get him in. If the player costs 100 mil, then so be it. But for me, the outrage, I think, is aligned with this idea that because we haven't had a spectacular, sexy sloshings of money around the place type transfer window, it's been a bad window. No, it's about getting the right players rather than the expensive
I'll defend
players.
them to it a bit. I thought the outrage was went way too far. I mean, the hashtag Edu out, was just a joke in my opinion. The criticisms, and look, some people really weren't having it, and I was surprised that with Arteta and Edu's track record that they weren't a little bit more open-minded about. But I'm talking about such a general fan base. Some people were for it, some people weren't. I was surprised that people weren't kind of willing to be a little bit more, okay, I've seen this before, but let's see what Arteta and Edu do because they've got it so right recently. But I will defend them to a degree. Arsenal with Partey and Elneny and even Lokonga, they've had dynamism in that sixth position. They've had players who can cover a lot of ground. They need to. It's a lone six role. Yes, sometimes Xhaka tucks in next to them, but there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot to cover. And at the same time, we have been down this former Chelsea player role. And do they ever really feel like your player? That's why I like David Luiz, because I felt his commitment was top when he was at Arsenal, whereas performance is always brilliant. No, but I never looked at a player and thought, he's here because he's just to pick up a paycheck. So I understand why Arsenal fans do have that sense of, are we really going to pick up a player that, one of our rivals are kind of happy to move on from? So I do get why there was real skepticism about it.
But to that point, sorry, I'm not sure what's coming in, but to that point, James, the idea that Jorginho potentially is only coming to us for a paycheck and a last kind of biggish contract.
Yeah.
Jorginho could win a Premier League title.
I know it's harsh. No, I agree.
He could win if I'm Jorginho, I'm thinking I could win a title just in 4 months. These guys done all the hard work. I've just got to get it over the line. So I think there are examples of Chelsea players that have come to us where you can levy that argument. So he's only coming here for a payday. That's legitimate. I'm just not sure that is the case here. Jorginho gets a good club in the summer, regardless for me, if he leaves Chelsea. So I think the Arsenal fan base, much of them, not all of them, let themselves down.
Would have got a better payday if he'd gone on a free, to be fair.
There you go. There you go.
Would have got a 2-3 year contract somewhere with a bigger. Yeah, you're right. Actually, that's a good point. Sorry, Sharoy, come in because Jordan and I have just been running our own podcast, me and him.
It's all good. It's all good. I mean, I think David Luiz, Czech, Willian were probably brought in with a view to occupying a place in that starting 11. Jorginho's not, put simply, in the Premier League, and that's because when you're top of the Premier League, you don't necessarily need a signing in January to slot into your 11 and elevate you. Mm-hmm. You need someone who's going to make sure you stay there. Mm-hmm. And that's a very different lens through which you look at the transfer window, firstly. Mm-hmm. But the second point is, look, over the last few months, when we've been top of the league and we've been putting 2 or 3 past everyone, even fans who weren't fans of Arteta, Edu, the Cronkies even, are saying we trust the process. Mm-hmm. The minute something happened that didn't quite align with them, it was Edu out.
Yes.
You can't say trust the process, but then not trust it because of one signing. I get the optics. With Chelsea bringing in Enzo Fernandez, the World Cup hero, and us taking a player that looks like it's a player that Chelsea don't want, I get the optics. But if you just engage with it for a moment and you look at the track record and you look at the progress and you look at what Jorginho's won, in fact, look at the reaction of Chelsea fans when Jorginho left. A lot of them weren't particularly pleased by it. Look at what Thiago Silva said yesterday to ESPN Brazil. He said, look, it's a big loss. This is someone who talks in the dressing room. This is a leader. Look at what Mark Cucurella said when he didn't know that Jorginho had left. He said, well, this is one of the most intelligent players in our dressing room. Look at Jorginho's welcome video where he says that this isn't the first time Mikel Arteta tried to sign me. It shows that there was a bit more thought to that meets the eye. You know, there are so many things you could engage with, but the minute you didn't like something about the process, it was done. Come on.
Yeah, but I agree with that. But the fans are losing their nut because it's reported that we can't get the Casido deal. So all of a sudden, like, we've gone for G. That is not the case, right? When I look at Manchester United with Eriksen, they've brought in that Sabitzer or whatever, like, no one's saying, oh, he's here to replace so-and-so and all that. It was done that, oh, he's in there to replace Eriksen. And no Man United fans ever going to lose their nut because they see the sense in it. And what was being reported, and I was the same, because I put it on my we like WhatsApp groups and things like that. I'd rather have nobody than, if we can't get the deal over the line, I'd rather go with what we've got and not sign him. Like, that was my thing, and give them 10 million. Well, it was reported at the time 15 million pounds.
Really, Lee?
That I wouldn't have gone for it. I would not have gone for it. I didn't want to give them 15 million pounds to help their funds and things like that. But then when the truth comes out that it is a replacement for El Neni, get the deal done, because it makes so much sense. And the fact of the matter is, I think that Arsenal have tried their best, and they're doing it. Tried their best to sign him. You know what I mean? They couldn't get it done. I honestly think if El Neni was fit, they wouldn't have gone for him. But El Neni's not. We needed to replace El Neni. And when you look at it, El Neni for Jorginho, that is not. Fans would not lose their stuff over that. They wouldn't lose their stuff over that. Reported badly. You know what I mean? In my eyes. And listen, it's not the first time Arsenal fans have jumped the gun. You know what I mean? There's a little saying that someone put, let's see what happens when the window finishes. You know what I mean? It was the same with when we got Jesus and we got Zinchenko. You know what I mean? When we lost out on other players. From my point of view, listen, I think that Edu and Arteta, whether you like them or whether you don't, whether you think they're great or whatever, they deserve the backing of the fans now. They deserve that, you know what I mean? If that's the way they want to go, then the way to go. I've heard actually people go well, how comes Arteta rates him, you know what I mean? Wanted to sign him 2 years ago, blah, blah, blah. If that's what Mikel feels that's going to be good enough to get us over the line, then who am I to have a go at him for that? And I'm not going to.
Two things, Lee. One, again, this word, and it's coming from me. I'm the biggest snob in life. But the snobbery about Jorginho. Jorginho is a brilliant player. He's a brilliant football player. The problem with Jorginho is he's a very specific system player. If the system around him isn't correct, he looks awful. He looks awful. Go and look at Jorginho back at Napoli when he was at Napoli. He was absolutely running the game, every game. He was arguably the best midfielder in Italy that season under Sarri at Napoli. He's a system player. I get it. He's a baller. And I can just see him spraying balls over the top for the likes of Saka and Martinelli and Jesus and Nketiah. He's a brilliant player. But I just want to I don't want to move forward, James, but I want to understand what you said there, Lee. So just so I'm clear, are you saying that you would have rather had a fit El Nene to back up our two midfielders than a Jorginho, if it was a choice?
Listen, I have been more than happy with what we've been doing. We're top of the league. We're top of the league with those players. We're top of the league with El Nene.
But getting over the line, do you think when it really comes to squeaky bum time, El Nene comes in for 4, 5, 6, 10 games, you trust him in those games more than you would trust Jorginho?
Because I've seen what El Nene can do for us. I don't know what Jorginho can do for us as an Arsenal player. Listen, you know what I mean?
But we know he can get teams over the line.
I wouldn't have got rid of Lokonga, if I'll be honest, in this window, because I feel we need more bodies. But I understand that there's certain things you have to do, and I think, when you look at it with Lokonga, it makes sense that he's gone to cricket. I think that's a fantastic move for him and for us, if I'll be honest. So I think it's worth the gamble. But I looked at it, and when now El Neni's gone out, I just think it's good business. That's how I see it now. I think it's very, very good business from Arsenal. I think, I don't want us. Can I just say something to that? And I mean this sincerely. I do not want to deal with that football club anymore.
I do get that.
They are a disgrace to this footballing world, and I know that every club should turn around and go, I don't want to deal with that club no more. But in fairness, you have to.
I hear you, Lee. But is the emotional attachment to, because I get what you're saying, but if the difference in securing our Premier League title means working with them, would you do it then?
Well, that's not going to... Listen, I don't agree. Look, it's not Chelsea as the hater of what... I don't like what Chelsea are doing, what they've done for 20 years, and what they're still continuing to do now. It's a disgrace. It's not the football way. They don't look at Chelsea Football Club, and this is where I'm going to say now, and it's a little bit different with Man City. Manchester City, for instance, we're in for the Cucurella as well, but they said, we've got the money, but we don't feel morally that's the right thing to do, so we're pulling out. That lot down there don't care about that. We don't care if we're going to mess up the financial market for anybody else. It's all about Chelsea Football Club, Chelsea Football Club. For me, you it's like, you've got to deal with teams like that, like, you know what I mean? But I tell you, I wouldn't be doing them any favours. I wouldn't be doing them any favours from now on, like, you know what I mean? Let's hope that they've done us a favour with Jorginho. And listen, the one thing I would say, whether Arsenal fans think he's the right decision or whatever, or don't really like Jorginho, listen, I'm going to be really honest here with the honesty. I'm not rushing down to the club shop today and putting number 20 on a shirt. Like,
if you win this league, Lee, I'm getting you a shirt and I'm getting 20 on the back, I'm getting Jorginho on the back.
I'm willing to take that. But the one thing I will say, and the one thing I will urge for Arsenal fans now, do you know what? He's an Arsenal player now, like, you know what I mean? So why he plays in that red and white shirt, he gets my backing 100%.
Yeah. Well, look, on lots of various shows on this channel, we've explored the reasons why Arsenal would want a Jorginho. I think I'll be doing an In Focus as well on our new signing. So plenty more to come on him. I think if you can just say that Arsenal, the one thing they have done is refreshed this window. 3 players out, Cedric, Lokonga, Marquinhos, all out on loan. We're going to rate the window in a sec, but I think they all feel like good loans for those 3 players. I think they've gone exactly where I think would fit and where's a good level for them and where I think they're going to get good development. Not that Cedric needs development, but I think that's still a good move for him, full and flying high. And we've refreshed the squad by, as you said, Shroy adding depth for Gabriel, another experienced, dependable body in midfield. And I actually think a really exciting forward in Trossard. I think because it's been an underwhelming window, I feel like Trossard and that signing might get dragged down with the level of name, if you know what I mean, not to disrespect our signings, but actually, he's a top player. I'm very excited about Trossard, and I look forward to seeing more of him. So let's give this window a rating, everyone, out of 10. Jordan, what would you give it?
I think that the window, this window was ultimately about not forward planning for the next 3-4 years. It was about what we need to do now to give ourselves the best chance of getting over the line this season. That's why, in hindsight, a Caicedo deal would have been a bit weird, because then you bring him guy for 100 million. Does that then, as Lee said, do you then drop he who shan't be named or Partey? I think the question is, are we equipped now better than we were a week ago to win this title? And I think overall, as you mentioned, numbers down, quality up. So yes, I would say the window has been, out of 10, I would give it I'd give it a 7. I'd give it a 7.
Lee?
I think that's a good point. I think we're better equipped now than what we was at the beginning of the window, because we was like panicking on all that. I don't care what anybody says. If Partey's injured and gets injured, I'm still panicking. Like, you know what I mean? Like whether we sign, I think maybe it'd been different if we'd have signed somebody else, but over that. So for me, I think the bench is stronger. That's what we got is a key for me. So 6 out of 10 for me. It's not. Listen, sometimes a 6 out of 10 window is better than getting all excited and all that. Like, this is a sort of window that we needed. Like,
Shroy?
I don't think we would have been calm if Partey was injured, regardless of who we bought, even if it was Caicedo, to be honest with you. There was a point in this window where we looked like we were succession planning with a midfielder for the future. But what did all of us say when the transfer window opened? We're top of the league. When opportunity comes knocking, you get what you need to get over the line. So maybe succession planning in this January window wasn't the way forward. And maybe that immediate impact with a proven midfielder and a proven forward was the way forward. And also looking at the business going out, I honestly think that if you could have written a script for Sambi Lokonga to sort of resurrect his Arsenal career, not saying that it's faded away, but I think everyone understands what I mean by that. It would be to go and hone your craft and learn your trade under Arsenal legend Patrick Vieira. and get those qualities and characteristics or something close to it from the Arsenal legend, the Invincible himself, to then come back and see if you can make something in this first team. So personally, and I really like the fact that we had a plan B and we didn't just sit on our hands, because I shat on the board last January for the exact opposite, and I'm not gonna be a hypocrite this year. A lot of people may disagree, but I'm actually going to give this window an 8.
No, I was going to give it an 8 as well. I'm with you, Shroy. And I think the way to explain it is, what did I go into the window thinking we needed? Depth in midfield and depth in the front three, and that's the word, depth. I wasn't sitting there saying we really need to upgrade in those areas. I was saying that we needed depth, and that's exactly what we got. Add to that a left-sided centre-back who can cover for Gabriel. I wasn't expecting that. Brilliant. I think the fact that we've acted quite decisively in finding replacements for those first-choice players. We did try and get those more expensive 70, 80 million pound players. They didn't work. I think there is a discussion around whether that's something to worry about actually coming into the summer. Can we not? Do we struggle to pull off those big deals? But that's for another podcast potentially come the summer window. And then I'm really taking into that the loans that went out. A window isn't just about everything you do coming in; it's what goes out and how you manage that. And I thought Arsenal did really well. And they've been getting their loan system spot on. Lokonga, Marquinhos, I think, good out on good loans. Balogun's firing. We're going to touch on him now. Patino doing very well at Blackpool. I know they left in the summer, but I think that's all part of it as well. So I'd give it an 8. And I think if it had been Caicedo instead of Jorginho, that's probably a 9 or 10. And if it had been Mudryk and Caicedo, that would never have happened. There wouldn't have been a 160, 70 million spent in this one window. So there's always going to be one or the other, which would have made it a 10. What were you going to say there, Jordan? Sorry?
Just my final point. So I'm doing the most talking again. My final point was going to be, I just think we have to look at it as now, from here to May, the club have got to think of it. What are the potholes that could prevent us winning the league in terms of positions? And for me, there's only really 2 positions in the whole 11 that I think if we lose these 2 players, we are in a bit of trouble, and that's Partey and Ramsdale. I'm not convinced that Turner over 8, 9, 10 games is the keeper to kind of really keep you on track. And I think Troy makes an excellent point. I'm not sure there is a player out there that you could bring in that if Partey goes down, you're thinking, oh, phew, at least we've got him. Do you know what I mean? There's very few players that I think could come in and make me confident if Partey's out for 10 games. So I think every other position, left back, I'm comfortable there. Right back, I'm happy with what we've got. Centre back options, I'm happy. Up front, I'm happy. Left wing, right, everywhere I'm happy on the midfield. So we've got to be really unlucky, i.e. we've got to lose both our midfielders and Saliba and Saka at the same time. Now, if that happens, you can't plan for that. You just can't plan for that. Do you know what I mean?
You need a bit of luck. You need a little bit of luck in football. You know what I mean? Let's hope we get it.
So let's just quickly find out from everyone. There's about 12 minutes left of the show. We'll bring we'll touch on Balogun and then obviously Everton as well. But on Caicedo very quickly, hands up if we go in for him in the summer. 3, 2, 1.
Caicedo?
Yeah.
No.
No, I don't think so. I think that ship sailed personally. I think he might go to Chelsea and Man United, but no.
I think we've pissed him off first. I think we've pissed off Brighton first of all, and I think secondly, I think they'll prioritise Rice. I'm not really on the Rice train, but I think they'll prioritise Rice. And I think
you on the gravy train.
I wish, mate. I wish, Lee. Boom, boom, boom.
I'll say the way Arsenal go, we end up going for Rice and we get Curry, won't we? Like that.
Nothing wrong with Curry, man. Nothing wrong with Curry. I think they.
I'm very shocked that no one feels. Why not? I think that we go for him.
Arsenal have had a trend recently of, one window wonders when it comes to transfer rumours. What I mean by that is, Tielemans, nothing happens. What's going on there? How was Tielemans so reported and so wanted? The guy is as available as any midfielder right now in the league. He's
going to be now. He's a free transfer, James. Different now.
Well, maybe.
Maybe he's. Listen. I also think
he wouldn't.
Teams don't want to. Sometimes Leicester might have said they didn't want to sell him. Zaha has been allowed to go on a free transfer at the end of this season. Maybe because Crystal Palace has said to teams.
I think
We're not willing to sell.
Actually, but we'll see.
Declan Rice, maybe, they could have actually inquired about him and said, look, we'll take him now. And said, no, we're in a relegation battle. We're not doing it. I think that the reason that the thing come out with Brighton more than anything is because of the player putting in a transfer request or saying that he wanted to leave. I think that Arsenal will definitely go back for him. I think Arsenal next season, 2 summer signings. They need 2 summer signings. Declan Rice and Caicedo. That's it. Job done.
I wonder if with 100.
Oh no, sorry. Do you know it's a little bit laggy? So apologies. I was talking before I heard you. So no, carry on, Jordan.
I was just going to just say I would wonder if there's a better midfielder out there that we could get for 100 mil. I from what I've seen of Caicedo, it looks like a good player. And from I mentioned in the last pod, my friends who are a bit more geeky than me told me that this guy is a serious midfielder who can do it all. He's like an upgrade on Ronaldo, who I love. He can pass short, pass long. He's got presence. He can tackle. He's good in the air. He's a rounded midfielder. So fair enough. But for 100 mil, 1 year at Brighton, I wonder if there's someone that's more proven that you can get for 100 mil.
The summer. The reason that
might be
because it was in January. They wanted to get it done.
I wouldn't come the summer. I wouldn't bid 70 million. Bid 50.
No. Like that's the thing. I think that maybe like it'd be a little bit cheaper. I think because if you have a look at Anthony Gordon. Let's have a look at that one. You know what I mean? Like Everton took a hit of over 20 million if they sold him in the summer.
But I think that's the sticking point. Brighton will know what we were thinking about bidding in January, and I don't think we're going to be willing to pay anywhere near that in the summer. I think Brighton will say, well, if he was worth that in January, he's worth that now. Whereas Arsenal will say, no, we were only going to that level because it was January. There are now alternative targets available, and he isn't worth that in this market. Sorry, and that's why I don't think we bring him in.
No, I don't. I think they like Zubimendi, by the way. I think Zubimendi release clause 57 million. I think they go for Rice and Zubimendi, and that's where your 140 million goes or whatever on those 2 midfielders.
And also as well, how much of a swagger do you have if you're Premier League champions? Does that impact on negotiations and bids? If you're going to Brighton as a Premier League,
absolute game changer.
Yeah, 100% it does.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, let's touch on Balogun quickly, and then we'll go into the Everton chat. I mean, he's absolutely firing. As I said, Patino's doing well as well. He's now currently the top scorer in France. That's beating the likes of, Mbappe, Neymar, Messi, all in his league. And he's, by the way, I've only caught some of the highlights on doing the rounds online, but that second goal where it's kind of come over the top and he's just fired it into that far corner was Van Persie-esque. I mean, he looks such serious talent. And, while we talk about adding reinforcements in the summer, there's some very talented young players that Arteta now has to, carefully manage back into the squad, but also without sounding horrible, because I want all these hairline products to make it. There are some which Arsenal can go, yeah, all right, 65 million. Top scorer in France. What do you think he'd cost if it weren't for the fact that he was 21 and you see some of the business we've done with outgoings in the past? I reckon you're looking at 65, 70 million plus easily. So there's got a big decision to make on him.
I don't think there's a decision yet. I think we can. He's had a great season in France. For me, his next step is to have a great season in the Premier League. That is another year's loan for me, and could be a little bargaining tool to a team down in Brighton or a team down in East London or someone like that. You have him on loan for a year, you know what I mean? I think that no need to rush this, a little bit like the Saliba one, you know what I mean? What I'm seeing, I've always said he's got the potential to be a really, really good forward. What's the point of bringing him back in the team at the moment where we're not going to get so many games because of Champions League? Hopefully, you know what I mean? I think if he was in the Europa League, he'd be playing every week in that, So I think another year, get him out on loan in the Premier League, banging in goals, and then he's ready to come right into this team.
Say though, I think he only signed a new deal in 2020, early 2021.
So we've got plenty of time.
If he goes out on loan till the end of the 2024 season, there's not long left, is there?
That was a bit of a saga as well with his contract because he
Yeah,
wasn't
it was.
initially,
Let
he
me have a
wasn't
little look.
initially going to renew, but Arteta kept coming out and saying that we really want to keep the player. And if you look at his record at youth level, it makes perfect sense, right? But with Lee's point, I don't even think Balogun would mind a Premier League loan now because he knows that Eddie Nketiah has taken his chance. He knows that Gabriel Jesus is in the team and the guy's electric. He knows that he either puts himself in the shop window again for perhaps a bigger move than the likes of Brighton or whoever we were talking about earlier. And if not, he gets to stake his claim for being the leading man for his boyhood club. So it's a win-win for him. Going to what he would cost. Look, how much did we pay for Pepe, having scored quite a few in that league some years ago? And look at what's happened to the market now. Obviously, we're only halfway through the season, but if Balogun ends up top 2 in that league, he's added real value. He's added real value. Then again, if we're in the Champions League next year and we're competing on 4 fronts where you can't rotate in the Champions League the same way that you want to in the Europa League, do you need 3 strikers as opposed to just 2?
Yeah.
Do you need more depth?
Well,
At which point do you want to send him out on loan at all? These are all decisions that Arteta has to make. But it's brilliant that we have to ask these questions because you can only ask these questions when you have players that you actually want to retain. And all too often, historically, we've just been trying to figure out how to get rid of dead weight. That's not the case here.
So I've just looked. His contract expires in 2025. Whether there's an option for a further year, all that, clubs are quite clever now. But and let's assume that it's, he could walk on a free in 2025. So next season would be the 23-24 season, which means he's coming back and there'd be a year left on his deal, which doesn't put Arsenal in a great position of negotiation. I actually think the decision is this summer. I think the decision as to whether you integrate him into the team or if you send him out on loan, I think you've got to extend again. You've got to extend or sell with a buyback clause. But I think big decisions around his future do have to be made this summer. I could foresee next season. I think Arsenal, they've added to the forward line now. Jesus, Vieira can play in the front 3, Trossard as well. I know we want that kind of £100 million winger, but I think they've done enough to push that down the line. And I think if they can make a front 3 out of 6 players, those 6 being Balogun, Jesus, and Nketiah. We've seen Nketiah and Jesus play wide before. Certainly, Jesus can do it. And then Martinelli, Saka, Trossard. And then you're looking at Smith Rowe as a midfielder. Then I think that's more than enough depth for next season. So I think there's a good chance Balogun stays and get some minutes off the bench, get some minutes in the Champions League and the Cups. Maybe then signs a new deal and goes on loan like January to the rest of the season. Do you know what I mean?
Here's a possible curveball. I'm not going to pretend like I've watched Balogun much on loan. Surprise, surprise, some would say, because I haven't.
Neither have I. Let's be honest.
Okay, but I'm thinking about next year. Shut up. I'm thinking about next year, and I'm looking at the landscape of the teams we're going to be competing against in the Champions League and the Premier League. And I'm looking at the firepower that some of the top teams are going to have next year, and I'm wondering. It's just a question. If we can get 45, 50 mil for Balogun, do we invest that in a proven goal scorer? Because I'm looking at our front line. Saka's getting goals. Martinelli's getting some goals. Jesus chips in with goals. And then Nketiah can score goals. But there's no one in our team that you think bank up 15 goals minimum. Who's our player that you say there's a banker that's going to bring in 15 goals in the league minimum? I'm not sure we've got that player yet. And I look at Liverpool and I look at, I think United will sign Kane. I look at City with Haaland. I look at what Newcastle may do in the window. And I want to win the Champions League next year as well. I want to win it. I want to win the Champions League next season.
I will.
Do we have a person in our front line that we're like, right, that is our banker, 15, 20 goal a season player? And I'm not advocating we sell Balogun. I'm just throwing it out there. Do we need to get a guy in the window? I think we need 2 midfielders for sure. But I also think we need an attacker or a striker who's our Kane, who's our Haaland, who's our Salah, who's a guy that is going to bank on a bad season 15 Premier League goals.
So 2 things. I don't think those players are that readily available because I actually think Kane and Haaland are 2 of the few in world football. I think that's one big issue, and the second is I think Balogun is looking like he's got all the potential to be that one day I will be 25.
Potential. I'm looking at next season. Next season, I want to win the Champions
There's so
League.
little out there. I think you're almost worth banking on his potential because he scored goals at every level. Then he goes to France, and let's be honest, we'd be impressed if he had 8, 9, 10 goals. He's got 14. You know, he's got more than Kylian Mbappe in that league right now. He scored away at PSG. He is looking an absolute killer in front of goal. So I think it's almost as I think your chances of getting that player are as good if you kept Balogun as then it would be as if you scoured the market, because Osimhen will go for 120, 130 million, and then I don't know who else is there.
But what the question is, do we need that striker, right? And I'm looking at when people mention Kane. Outside of Kane and Son, Tottenham typically didn't get that many goals. Looking at the Salah example, they had Salah and Mane who were prolific. They didn't get too many from elsewhere, although other people chipped in. Whereas with us, we have Saka, we have Martinelli, we have Odegaard who's scoring quite a few goals. We now have Nketiah. We have Jesus who started on fire. Our centre backs even score goals. We share them around a lot more. So looking at the style of play, look at what people are saying about Manchester City now. Well, you brought in Erling Haaland. Yeah, he's on his way to a goal scoring record, but has it interrupted the flow? Has it made you a worse team overall? Mikel Arteta maybe consciously hasn't gone for that 9. Maybe 1, because there aren't that many available, but 2, he doesn't think that that's the way he wants to play. He doesn't necessarily need that 15, 20 goal a season gunman, because he wants to spread them around and make sure that we're a threat from everywhere. Only time will tell. I don't know if that works in the Champions League, because sadly I haven't seen Arsenal play in the Champions League for a bloody long time. We're about to find out, but I quite like the fact that we have threats all over the pitch.
And also, Jordan come up with a point earlier on snobbery. You know what I mean? This is a guy that's banging in goals in France. We've gone to France before, as you said earlier on, with Pepe. Also Lacazette as well. You know what I mean? We spent over 50 million for his goals in France, and we've got our own boy ripping it up over there at this moment in time. So for me, listen, he's going to come back. This is my problem with him at the moment, because if it was me, I'm going to go, look, I'm banging in goals left, right and centre. I'm playing every week. I don't want to come back and just be sitting on the bench and getting minutes, 5-10 minutes here. I'd want to go out. Either I want to be the number one, or, and take Eddie's place, or I want to play games. So that's where Arsenal got to negotiate, isn't it? So, right, well, we'll get you out on loan, but you've got to sign a new contract or whatever. Blah, 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 blah. I'll be very, very disappointed if we let Balogun go, because I think at the end of the day, what I've seen of him is as good as, and if not better than Eddie at this stage of his development. And you've got there's also this great thing about spending money and everything like that. And we all like doing that. But I also like seeing players come through the academy and come through.
And coach. How about coaching players?
And exactly. Getting them done. I like the thing that we've got Saka, Smith Rowe. I love that Martinelli, all right, he hasn't come through the youth, but you know what I'm saying is a young player that's come through. Balogun comes through and bangs in goals. And if he does bang in goals, and you have to think of this, you've got Manchester United spending whatever money on Harry Kane if that comes. You've got money. Chelsea will be looking to spend some money as a striker, because that's one thing that they've not got. Then you'll be looking at other teams and all that. We've got our own. We've done it. We can go and invest in other areas, because we've got that striker, you know what I mean. So we're saving a lot of money in that area, Yeah. Please, develop Balogun. That would be my message to Arsenal.
I have a feeling. Let's make sure we make an early prediction. I'm thinking he'll go on loan, but they'll give him a new contract. That's what I think.
That's what happened.
So
I'm not sure. I think they might have him as a third. And I think with the games available next year, I think he might be happy being third choice.
That's what I would do.
Behind Jesus and Nketiah. If he's your third choice forward, that's not a bad third forward to have. And I think that he may be fine. If I get 10 minutes in the Champions League here, start the League Cup games, start the FA Cup games. Okay, I may only get 10 appearances in the Prem next season. So I think he might take that.
I know the Premier League is supremely competitive, but I do think Arsenal need to get to a point where if we're playing 19th, 20th in the league, you can start with, Partey's out, so we'll play Jorginho or whatever. Saka, take this one off. We'll play Jesus on the right with Balogun and Trossard or Martinelli. obviously no manager's going to make 8 changes for a Premier League game.
Yeah.
But you want to get to a
Right.
point where you can comfortably make 3 and it doesn't disrupt. White, you sit this one out, Tomiyasu plays. I think our squad is getting closer to that. If Vieira develops as we expected, because there's no doubt of talent there, Odegaard can sit some out. So, yeah, we'll see how the squad develops. Well, we have, I was chatting very privately in the back end to you all while you were making your fantastic points. And we have managed to bargain ourselves an extra 5-10 minutes just to chat about Everton because new management is very interesting. So I was on DR Sports and Mike, Everton fan. I mean, I honestly, I felt so sorry for him. He was talking about his issues at the club. And I mean, I get it. I get when you feel so disconnected from your club and by the way, Arsenal never had it like this. So, it's all relative, right? But, they've got serious issues, Everton. They have the manager bounce aspect in Sean Dyche, which is a new boss with new ideas and a boss we've typically found quite difficult to play against, especially away from home. So there's that side. But then actually the deflation that's come after the announcement of his appointment, of not bringing anybody in this January transfer window. They've got 100 million for Gordon and Richarlison in the last 2, and it's not been reinvested really. Okay, Onana came in. So there's a lot of problems at that club, and they're talking about maybe protests or displays of obviously disappointment in the ownership and what's happening there. So what kind of game are Arsenal going into here? Is this going to be a not buoyant, but like a Goodison Park ready to start again behind a new manager? Or is this going to be an incredibly flat, almost toxic atmosphere that we're coming into?
Tough. Don't make no mistake about it. This game's tough. And I'll tell you why. Because Sean Dyche is a very, very good coach, very, very good manager. And gets the best out of a team like Burnley, where they can compete and make it very, very difficult. The one good thing we've got, he's only had a week there. So I think a bit more down the line, he'll get a little bit more. But let's get some facts right about Everton. Calvert-Lewin up front. They've got the England international goalkeeper in their ranks. They've got a decent central defensive partnership, which Sean Dyche can work on. And they've got midfield players that are decent. He's got a better team of players at Everton than he ever did at Burnley. And he's got Burnley where they were like, I think at the end of the day, I don't think this manager gets the credit he deserves. I think he's done fantastically well. Arsenal are in for a real tough game because I tell you one thing, they'd be a lot more organised than that they've been in the last few times. And also, don't forget, this is a team, by the way, that got a point at Everton. Manchester City a little while ago, So they've got players there with ability. I can tell you that now. Iwobi, by the way, has done very, very well. Probably been the best player for them this season. There, they've still got some very decent players. You know what I mean? And with the organisation that he will bring, they'll be a difficult team to beat. Whether they can survive, and that's a different thing. But I believe Arsenal are in for a very, very difficult game. Very, very difficult game.
First of all, I'm not totally convinced this Everton team is better than the Burnley team he had. I don't think it's that good, player for player. But that's for another day. I think this is a game that will be tough. But I think, as I mentioned before, the season starts now. These are the games. You want to win the Premier League title, you have to get through them. Arsenal they've got to block out all the Sean Dyche noise because they will be up for it. Him too. They'll be up for it. They're going to be loud. They're going to be backing their man. They're going to be like, right, now is the game where we start off our fight for survival. Come on, they're going to be bang up for it. We just got to go in there, get the job done, get the hell out. And I think Arsenal will win this game. It's a professional job. Don't get caught up in the noise. Ride the first 20, 25 minutes because they'll be getting stuck in. It'll have them fighting. It'll have them running. Cool. We're a better team than you and we're on better form than you. This shouldn't be a problem in theory for Arsenal if they are serious about winning the Premier League title. Everton have been rubbish defending for about 10, 15 years. I don't care how good a defensive coach you are. How much can you do in 7 days or 5 days? How much can you really do? You can make them a little bit fitter, a bit more organized. But I expect my team, top of the league, who are going for a title, to get in there, ride the storm, and get the hell out. End of.
Yeah, I think. Look, I get the fact that the crowd will be live, but I also think that given their track record this season, that's also a crowd that could be relatively quickly silenced if we start games the way that we start games. If we score within the first 5 or 10, I think suddenly they'll all be sat there going, "Shit, we're in for a long day here." A new manager bounce. There are 2 things that can happen, right? You can have a new manager bounce where a new manager comes in and gets a wonderful reaction out of the players for a game or so, like Emery did with Villa against United, for example. But also, and this has actually tended to be the case with past Everton managers, you get a new manager coming in and they realise the gravity of the task at hand because their team really isn't that good. And I fear for Sean Dyche that he's actually taken on this job and it's going to be very difficult for him. I think he's a great manager. I don't think he should have been let go at Burnley personally. I think he was hard done by that. But I don't think this team is as good as he may well think it is.
It's not good.
Just looking at their, I know that Lee mentions the City result. Last few games, West Ham put 2 past them. Everton don't score any. They lose 2-1 to West Ham, 3-1 to United, 4-1 to Brighton. You don't have the point at City. They've lost 2-1 to Wolves. They lose 3-0 to Bournemouth. They lose 4-1 to Bournemouth. They lose 2-0 to Leicester, 0-0 to Fulham. I could keep going. They don't score. They don't score and they lose games.
They're crap.
You know, I mean, so I understand the element of caution because there is a new manager and we're going away and all of that. But look at where we are in the league. Look at the amount of players that we have fit. We should be going there and scoring a very early goal, shutting them up, and then locking this off.
And it's massive. It's massive as well because City play Spurs the following day. If I bang on again about protect the buffer, we beat Everton. City are then thinking, oh. And I know Spurs lost to City a couple of weeks ago.
8 points.
Generally, and a game in hand. And generally, Spurs do quite well against City. I don't think they will. I think City win this game. But I think it's a big game in that sense as well for us.
They might because Conte's just had surgery. This could be one where their captain's taking the dressing room and saying, "We're doing this one." It could be a very hostile. Maybe this is just me hoping because I bizarrely I feel dirty saying this, but I want Tottenham to win that one. I think they could rally. They could rally without him at the helm and do this for him. Let's see.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. You know, the form we're in, the form they're in. You know, if it's not now, when can we with our chest go, you know, forget this, what we worried about, go win 3-0. But I don't think this is like the Premier League in 2008-9, where basically you paid anyone from 11th downwards in home or away, you should have been beating them. But, you know, there is, I'm sort of with Lee, like, they look poor, yet they've got England's #1 goalkeeper. Shouldn't be, in my opinion, but okay, some people think he is and should be. And they've got Calvert-Lewin, who has shown he can score goals in this league, and they've got Onana in midfield.
He's shit.
Onana.
James. No. Well, Onana's had a decent start to the season. Looks good. Calvert-Lewin is an average striker. He can score if given chances.
Maybe
let's not pretend like if Calvert-Lewin beats us on the weekend, that says more about us than them. Let's have it right. Come on.
Maybe, but you know, I looked at that Burnley 11 every time we faced them and thought that doesn't look anything special. In fairness, I reckon that Burnley wasn't as bad as I think.
We got through those games. Listen, you make it difficult. It will be difficult. I'm not saying that we're not going to go and win this game. I'm expecting a tough, difficult game. You know what I mean? I'm telling you what, this is a tougher game on Saturday with him in charge than would have been with Frank Lampard. I've been going there with Frank Lampard was in charge, confident that we were getting 2, 3, 4 goals. This time I'm still confident, but I know it's going to be a lot tougher. It's going to be tougher physically and mentally.
Because our record against Everton isn't brilliant. So I know we beat them 5-1 on the final day when sort of the season was done, top 4 was done. But then we lost 2-1 to them. Who was their manager?
Benitez.
It was Benitez. He was still there.
You can put the records aside.
They lost 6 on the spin or something when we went up there and they beat us. You know what I mean? But that's last season. That's gone.
Ancelotti the year before, we lost 2-1 in both those games.
Records are irrelevant this year.
We weren't going for a title those years. We weren't going for a title in those years.
Our record at Tottenham hasn't been great. We just won there. Our record at Brighton wasn't great. We just won there. I mean, we've been putting this stuff to bed now. That's why I'm not looking too far back. This is a different team.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up there. Let's get some score predictions, everybody, as I get the league table up. This was we did
done.
touch on it the other day.
Nice one. Nice one.
We'll get Turkish's prediction, I believe. But as we mentioned earlier in the podcast, we are wishing him all the best, and his family as well. Lee, let's get your quick score prediction.
I'm going Everton 0, Arsenal 2.
Cool, Jordan.
I'm going Everton 1, Arsenal 2.
Okay, I'm going 1-0 Arsenal. Sure.
3-0.
Okay,
Go
fair
on.
enough.
Go on, Sharai.
Come
Go
on,
Sharai.
Sharai.
I love
Let's have
it.
it right.
It's easy to
I
Have
know.
it right.
Easy to go 3-0 when you're not actually in the competition.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah,
take
exactly.
Turkish's place if you want.
I am the world's worst host, as always. I realise I've not left on ourselves enough time for comments of the week. Does anyone have one they want to just quickly? Couple they
I've
want
got
to
a
get
few.
out. Very
I'll
quick?
save mine till next week.
Oh, there's a
Yeah,
couple.
apologies,
I've got
everyone.
time
I
if
know
you guys
this
can
is
stick around. I've got time if you guys have a couple of minutes.
Go on. Oh,
Go on,
go
let's
on,
do
go
it
on, go on, go on. Let's do it.
Go on, let's have some fun. Go on. What have we got?
Who's going first then?
You, Lee. Go on. Kick things
Okay.
off.
I've got it from Martin Sutherland. I thought this was a great one. Another great episode, guys. Miss Turkish, which is a lovely thing to say. But James was a good host.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
Lee
it.
being just as awesome as usual. The one
Oh, God, here we go.
we shall not name. Also, not bad this week.
Ah, I'll take it.
And the brilliance of Sharai makes this an awesome show.
Well done. That's a
Loved
lovely
whoever
one.
that was. What was his
I
name?
enjoyed that. I like that one. Very, very positive.
He hasn't got his name down, but yeah, anyway, go on.
I did. I actually said it was Martin, but it's Marion Sutherland.
So you did say it, but you got it wrong.
I ain't got my glasses on, have I? Like, so sorry, Marion.
Go on, sorry.
Martin at the weekends.
This one's from. I actually felt for him when I read this. This one's from Kasim Chima 8953, and he says, "How can you get onto comment of the week if you're not funny or creative? Because I'm an accountant, for fuck's sake." And I thought, you know what? Fair play to you, bro. Fair play to you. You did make it to comment of the week. There you go. Hope you enjoyed it.
That is genius.
It's Marlon, by the way. It's not Marion.
Oh,
It's
bloody
Marlon.
hell, Lee.
I am so sorry. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know.
You can see him quickly put his glasses on to read it properly and then come back in.
I'm so bad. Like, you know, so bad.
Go on, Jordan.
I'll spare these blushes. I've got three here. First one here. When Sharai speaks, you listen. Sky Sports soon come. I'm paraphrasing there a little bit. That's from Rafe, fan of Sharai there. Thought we were going to sign Casado. And then I saw Jordan say, we're going to sign Casado. And then the last one was, so this was just referencing when I had to leave in the first couple of minutes of the last pod, because I had a delivery here. Someone's written, Jordan's signed Edison shirt must have arrived. Well, that was quite funny as well. Well done.
Fair play.
Over to you, James.
Well, I was useless and I forgot. There was a great one, and then I forgot to screenshot it and lost it. But you guys have read out plenty, so we'll leave it there. And I will just leave as the world's worst host. So there we go. But everyone, that has been the Fourever Arsenal podcast. Of course, we are on all podcast platforms as well. So go check us out. We're finally coming through on Apple Podcasts as well. So wherever your preferred destination for your podcast is, we are there. Big thanks to everyone. Again, a big thanks to Sharai for filling in. Always a pleasure having you, my friend. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Jordan. And check out all the content.
Thank you, James. Thank you.
We're all done again, James.
Not a problem at all.
Couldn't do it without you. Well, that's not true, actually, but anyway, I'm being nice.
You're definitely not the world's worst host. You're a lot better than you give yourself credit for.
You can lie to make me feel better. That's okay. All right. We're going to leave it there. Big thanks to everyone. Everton content out on AFTV. Catch you on the next one.